The stars over Hart's Meadow shone with an uncommon clarity that summer night. The vastness of the cosmos hung heavily over the quiet town, its rolling fields and thick woods tucked away from the hum of the outside world. For most of its residents, life moved slowly, predictably until the sky cracked open. It started as a faint glow on the horizon, an amber bead of light moving too fast, too erratically, to be any airplane or meteor. As it grew brighter, it ignited the treetops and splashed the fields in an eerie orange hue. A sonic boom followed, rattling the town's windows and sending a flock of startled birds into the air. Then, silence. Leah Morgan, a lifelong Hart's Meadow resident and amateur stargazer, had been outside on her family's porch when the object appeared. She watched in stunned amazement, then scrambled to grab her flashlight and her father's old field binoculars. The streak of light had vanished beyond the dense tree line, and a faint plume of smoke now rose against the starlit sky. Adrenaline coursed through her veins as she muttered to herself, "What the hell was that?" Without a second thought, she took off toward the woods. The trail into the forest was narrow, overgrown, and unfamiliar even to someone who had spent her entire life exploring these parts. Branches whipped her face, and brambles snagged her jeans, but the faint, acrid smell of something burning drove her on. She moved by instinct, following the hints of heat and smoke. The deeper she ventured, the more unnatural the forest seemed. The usual nighttime chorus of crickets and owls was muted, as if the wildlife held its collective breath. Finally, she broke through the underbrush and stumbled into a small clearing. Her flashlight's beam swept across the ground, catching torn-up earth and smoldering debris. In the center of the clearing sat a small, metallic structure partially buried, still smoking, and unmistakably not from this world. The craft's surface shimmered like liquid metal, distorting Lee's reflection as she approached. Despite its smooth, alien geometry, the vessel was clearly damaged. A long gash ran down one side, spewing faint curls of vapor into the night air. Her heart thundered as she stepped closer. This wasn't something you saw on the evening news or read about in those cheap tabloid magazines. This was real. She held her breath and reached out a hand toward the craft's surface, but before she could touch it, a faint sound stopped her. A high-pitched, warbling chirp echoed from the wreckage. Leah froze, scanning the darkness. The sound came again, quieter this time, almost like a frightened animal. She directed her flashlight toward the source, the beam landing on a small figure half hidden behind a jagged piece of the craft. It shivered in the light, its blue skin glinting like polished glass, and its enormous, round eyes reflected her own startled face. It wasn't human. That much was obvious. The creature was no taller than her knee, with elongated limbs and a rounded, ridged head. The soft, blue glow emanating from its body cast strange shadows across the clearing. It chirped again, a sequence of rhythmic clicks and mournful hums, as if pleading for help. Lee's first instinct was to back away, to run and alert anyone about what she'd found. But then the creature did something unexpected. It raised one of its small hands, palm open, and looked directly at her. The gesture wasn't threatening. It was more like a plea. Despite her fear, Lee's heart wrenched at the sight. Whatever it was scared. It needed help. Steeling herself, she lowered the flashlight and took a tentative step forward. The creature remained still, watching her with wide, unblinking eyes. "Hey there," she whispered. "It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to stay calm. Slowly, carefully, she crouched down and extended a hand, keeping her movements deliberate and non-threatening. The creature chirped again, softer this time. After a long, tense moment, it reached out its own hand, brushing her fingers with its strange, claw-like digits. The touch was cool, almost silky, and not at all what she expected. For the first time since the crash, the creature stopped trembling. Leah took a deep breath. Whatever this thing was, it was alive and alone. Her mind raced with questions. Where had it come from? Was it the only survivor? And most importantly, would someone else come looking for it? She glanced around the clearing, suddenly hyper-aware of the open sky and the smoking wreckage. They couldn't stay here. Okay, she said, her voice steadier now. You're coming with me. Carefully, she scooped the creature into her arms. It chirped once in surprise, then settled against her chest. Despite its alien appearance, it felt surprisingly light, its small body humming faintly with warmth. Leah could feel her pulse pounding, but a strange sense of responsibility took hold. This creature wasn't just an oddity or a discovery, it was alive, vulnerable, and for now, in her care. With one last look at the ruined spacecraft, Leah turned and carried the alien cub into the woods. Leah quickly learned that keeping V hidden was easier said than done. For one thing, it seemed to grow curious about everything. Once back at her family's old barn, now a storage shed, more than anything V poked its long, spindly fingers at every tool, crate, and piece of rusted farm equipment it could reach. It cooed at a dusty chainsaw, squeaked in fascination when it found a box of nails, and made a melodic whirring noise whenever it got excited. Leah had no idea how much of it was intelligence and how much was just alien instinct, but V seemed to take in its new environment with an alarming speed. V, she said softly, crouching down to its level. She decided on the nickname while carrying it back through the woods. It's short for visitor, okay? That's what you are. You're a visitor here, so we need to keep a low profile. No wandering off, no loud noises. Got it? V tilted its head, those large, glossy eyes staring at her unblinking. Then it made a short chirp and reached out to touch her cheek. Leah flinched at first but held still. The contact was light, curious. Almost affectionate. It was so alien yet so gentle that she couldn't help but smile. Yeah, okay, she said, voice softening. You're a quick learner, aren't you? That night, Leah hardly slept. She kept thinking about the crash, the strange sounds it had made, and the possibility that someone or something might come looking. The military convoy that arrived the next morning only heightened her fears. Helicopters circled the forest, and black SUVs appeared on the edge of town. By noon, soldiers in dark uniforms were trudging through the woods, scanning the ground and questioning locals. Leah overheard enough to know they weren't saying alien out loud, but that's exactly what everyone was thinking. When a pair of soldiers came to her door, Lee's pulse spiked. We're just looking into a possible meteor impact, one of them explained. You didn't happen to see anything unusual last night, did you? Nope, Leah said, forcing a casual smile. I was asleep. Didn't hear a thing. They stared at her a moment longer than she liked before finally nodding and moving on. Once the door shut, she leaned against it, her breath coming in shallow bursts. V had been tucked into a makeshift nest of blankets in the barn. If they'd searched the property, they might have found it. The thought made her stomach churn. By mid-afternoon, the whole town was buzzing. There were rumors of black-suited government agents interrogating the postmaster. Stories of men with strange equipment knocking on doors and asking odd questions. Some neighbors thought it was a crashed drone. Others whispered about secret weapons tests or satellite debris. The most outlandish tales, at least to everyone but Leah, spoke of extraterrestrial visitors. For her part, Leah avoided as many people as possible. She spent her time in the barn, watching V explore its surroundings. It didn't need food or water as far as she could tell, though it occasionally pressed its palms against her garden hose or the metal of the old tractor, humming softly as if drawing something from the contact. Leah wasn't sure what it was doing, but as long as it didn't set anything on fire or cause another explosion, she let it be. The real trouble began on the second night. While Leah sat on an overturned milk crate, mulling over what her next move should be, V grew restless. It chirped insistently, tugging at her sleeve. What is it? She whispered. What do you need? V responded by pointing toward the barn door. Its glowing eyes darted between her and the exit, its movements jittery and urgent. Against her better judgment, Leah opened the door just a crack. V slipped out into the yard, scurrying over the grass on its long, thin legs. It stopped by the edge of the field and turned back toward her, clicking rapidly. V, she hissed, chasing after it. You can't just dash. She stopped short when she saw what V was looking at. It wasn't a person. It wasn't even one of the soldiers. It was a deer, standing still in the moonlight. The animal seemed calm, unafraid, even as V approached. It extended one of its delicate hands toward the deer's muzzle. The animal sniffed it, blinked, and then something remarkable happened. The deer's fur seemed to shine, just for an instant, as if a faint glow passed from V's hand to the creature. The deer turned, trotted a few steps, then bounded into the trees. V returned to Lee's side, chirping contentedly. Leah stared at it, her mouth slightly open. "What the hell was that?" she whispered. You didn't hurt it, did you?" V chirped again, softer now, as if to reassure her. Whatever it had done, it didn't seem harmful, just odd, like everything else about it. Leah crouched down, meeting its gaze. "I don't know what you are," she said. "I don't know where you came from or how long you'll be here. But we have to be careful, okay? There are people looking for you. People who might want to take you away. And I can't let that happen." She didn't know why she said it. It wasn't like she had a plan. But as she looked into those shining eyes, she felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. V trusted her, and for now, that was enough. Far above the Earth's atmosphere, cloaked in a shimmering field of refracted light, a vessel floated silently in orbit. Its shape defied easy categorization, neither a ship nor a structure, but something in between, constantly shifting, its surface alive with patterns of light. Inside, the two beings who had tracked the crash to this remote corner of the planet stood before a rippling holographic display. They were nothing like the small cub Leah had rescued. Towering and elegant, their elongated limbs and translucent blue skin gave them a ghostly appearance. Iridescent patterns pulsed beneath their semi-transparent exoskeletons, each wave of light a silent language exchanged between them. Their voices, when they spoke, reverberated through the chamber in layered harmonics that could be felt as much as heard. "Analyze again," one of them intoned, the light patterns along its body shifting in jagged spikes of anxiety. "What has become of the cub?" The other tilted its head, studying the holographic projection. The image showed recordings taken from Earth's own broadcasts, military vehicles rolling through dense forest, uniformed soldiers shouting into radios, heat signatures detected from above. But what caught their attention most was a brief snippet captured by an infrared drone, a human figure carrying their cub, cradling it close to their body. "There," the second parent said, pointing with a long, delicate appendage. "This one. This human has the cub." The first parent emitted a low tone of unease. "Humans," it murmured, the word carrying a sense of disdain. "Violent, unpredictable. They kill what they do not understand." "But this one does not appear hostile," the second countered. Its light pattern smoothed out slightly, taking on a softer hue. "It shields the cub, keeps it hidden." "Perhaps to exploit it," the first replied. "Their kind captures the rare, the unknown, for study. For power. We must not allow the cub to remain in their care." They stood silently for a moment, their luminous patterns flickering. Both understood the gravity of their situation. The cub was not simply a child to them, it was their future, a vital link in their lineage. Losing it was unthinkable, but retrieving it would require breaching the boundaries of a species they had thus far avoided. The humans would surely not take kindly to their arrival. The second parent finally spoke, its tone measured and resolute. "We have no choice. We must descend. We will retrieve the cub, no matter the cost." The first emitted a somber chord of agreement. Together, they turned to a panel glowing faintly on the wall of their vessel. With a wave of their long fingers, they activated the descent protocol. The shimmering field around the ship grew brighter as the vessel shifted into a lower orbit, preparing for entry. As they made their approach, they continued to monitor Earth's broadcasts. They saw more soldiers combing the forests, deploying scanners and heat-seeking drones. They picked up faint, fractured conversations from the human radio network's phrases like unidentified object, containment perimeter, and possible biohazard. It was clear that the humans were on high alert. They also saw glimpses of the human who held the cub, though not clearly. The human moved swiftly through the forest, staying away from patrols. It shielded the cub, covered it with cloth, and fed it from containers of water. This behavior puzzled the parents. Was this human truly protecting their child? Or was it only hiding it until the right moment to reveal its discovery to others of its kind? The first parent emitted a low, questioning tone. If we approach directly, the humans will see us as a threat. They will attack. Let them try, the second replied, its pattern surging with protective intensity. They will not harm the cub again. They will not take what is ours. The ship's descent quickened, a soft hum filling the chamber as the vessel neared the Earth's surface. The parents' forms glowed brighter, their patterns synchronizing in a unified rhythm. In their minds, there was no room for doubt. They would bring their child home, even if it meant facing humanity's full wrath. Leah sat on the barn floor, leaning against a bale of hay, her heart pounding. Outside, the air felt wrong, still and heavy. It wasn't just the military presence creeping ever closer. It was something else. A subtle vibration under her feet, as though the earth itself held its breath. V chirped nervously, clinging to her arm. Its skin shimmered faintly in the dim light of the barn, its usual calm replaced by a restless energy. "What is it?" she whispered, brushing her hand over its smooth, cool head. V only clicked faster, its wide eyes fixed on the barn door. That's when she heard it, a low, resonant hum, more felt than heard, building in intensity. The vibrations in the ground grew stronger, rattling tools on the walls and sending loose bits of hay fluttering to the floor. Leah scrambled to her feet, clutching V tightly. Her first thought was that the military had brought in some massive machine. But as she peeked through the cracks in the wooden planks, her breath caught. A beam of pure white light shot down from the sky, illuminating the far edge of the field like a miniature sun. The light cut through the early morning haze, scattering the dew on the grass into a million glimmering points. Leah squinted, shielding her eyes, and then she saw them, two tall, glowing figures emerging from the light. Her mind struggled to process what she was seeing. These weren't humans. Their elongated limbs moved with fluid grace, and their translucent blue bodies pulsed with shifting patterns of light. The air around them shimmered like heat waves. The moment they stepped fully into view, V squirmed in her arms and let out a loud, resonant chirp, a sound of recognition, relief, and longing. Leah realized instantly, these must be its parents. The figures stopped and turned toward the barn. They made no sound, but the patterns on their bodies shifted rapidly. A feeling washed over Leah, as though the air itself carried an emotion. It wasn't words exactly, but a sensation, a mixture of determination and fear. These beings weren't here to hurt her. They wanted their cub. But there was something else. Something darker. She barely had time to process it before a new noise shattered the stillness. Vehicles roared into the clearing. Military jeeps, Humvees, and trucks rolled to a stop. Soldiers jumped out, weapons drawn, barking orders into radios. Spotlights switched on, cutting through the glow of the alien beam. The figures turned toward the new arrivals, their bodies flashing with sharp bursts of red light. Leah ducked lower, pulling V closer. "No, no, no," she whispered, watching the soldiers fan out into defensive positions. The lead officer raised a bullhorn. "Unidentified entities, this is the United States Armed Forces. Do not move. Stay where you are and put your hands in the air." The aliens didn't move. Instead, their colors shifted, the red light pulsing more intensely. One of them raised an arm, and the air around it seemed to distort. A low hum filled the clearing, and the soldiers tensed, their fingers tightening on their triggers. "Wait!" Leah burst out of the barn, V still clinging to her chest. "Stop! Don't shoot!" She stumbled into the open, both sides freezing at the sight of her. The soldiers stared, clearly thrown off by the young woman running into the line of fire with a glowing alien cub in her arms. The two alien figures turned sharply, their colors fading from red to a pale green. For a moment, there was silence, tense, fragile. Leah raised her free hand, keeping her voice calm but firm. "They're not here to hurt anyone. They just want their child." She could feel V trembling against her, its chirps growing more desperate. The aliens took a step closer, their light pulsing faintly, cautiously. The soldiers didn't lower their guns. One of them whispered something into a radio. Lee's heart pounded. She could see how this was going to go. Any second now, a trigger would be pulled, and everything would spiral out of control. Please, Leah shouted. They don't want to fight. They just want their kid back. Look at them. The officer hesitated, lowering the bullhorn slightly. He squinted at the aliens, then at the glowing creature in Lee's arms. The tension in the clearing seemed to hang by a thread. But before anyone could make a move, V wriggled free. The little cub leapt from Lee's grasp and landed lightly on the ground. V, no! Leah called, but it was already moving. The cub ran straight toward the two alien figures, chirping loudly. The soldiers shifted nervously, some raising their weapons again. Leah held her breath as V reached its parents. The moment it touched them, the aliens' lights shifted to a warm, golden hue. They knelt, enveloping the cub in their long arms, their patterns rippling with relief and joy. For a heartbeat, everyone froze. Even the soldiers seemed reluctant to fire on what was clearly a family reunion. The aliens rose slowly, their lights pulsing rhythmically as they held their child close. The hum that had filled the clearing softened, becoming a low, soothing vibration. Lee's voice broke the silence. They're leaving. Just let them go. The officer glanced between the aliens, Leah, and his men. After a long, tense moment, he raised his hand. Hold fire, he ordered. The soldiers hesitated, then gradually lowered their weapons. The two alien parents stepped back toward the light, their child nestled safely in their arms. Before entering the beam, they turned toward Leah. Their lights shifted again, radiating a soft, grateful green. It wasn't a spoken thank you, but Leah felt it all the same. Then, in a flash of brilliance, the three of them disappeared, and the beam of light vanished with them. The soldiers stared at the empty space where the aliens had been, unsure of what to do next. Leah stood motionless, her arms still outstretched as if she could keep the peace a little longer. She'd done it. She'd kept V safe. But as she turned to look at the military vehicles and the stunned faces of the soldiers, she realized her life would never be the same. The world knew now. And so did she.